Hi, today we're going to talk a little bit about how come Burgundy label is such a pain in the butt. Burgundy is one of the regions that is most highly sought after for the true wine collector and experts, but it is really hard for the beginner wine drinker to get into simply because their label are confusing and really hard to understand. And forget about all the other region in France because each region have their own thing going on and it's all kind of confusing, but we're just focused on Burgundy. Here's the silver lining. The part that's easy about Burgundy is that they're all Pinot Noir grape when it's red and it's mostly all Chardonnay grape when it's white. So that actually makes it quite simple. But what gets really tricky is how do you actually pick a wine when the label just look like a bunch of mumbo jumbo? So Burgundy is all about visualizing and knowing the village, the vineyard, the producer, and the vintage. So it is a lot of moving pieces, yes, but compared to your traditional, for example, California wine, that's very straightforward, where they usually put the name of the winery in big, bold prints. It's the biggest thing on the label. In this case, True Mist. You know for immediately that True Mist is the name of a winery. They almost always tell you what the varietal is, which is Cabernet Sauvignon, again, printed right there on the label. So it makes it really easy for consumer. Whereas in Burgundy, all this just looks like Greek for a new wine drinker. So think about Burgundy this way, or compared to our California counterpart. In Burgundy, they respect the land, and they want to promote the land, the region, and the vineyard a lot more than they usually promote themselves. We're here in California, we're more brand driven, so most of our wine, we want to promote a winery, the name of the winery first. So here on the Burgundy label, usually what you see on the biggest print is never the name of the winery. It's almost always either the name of the village or the name of the vineyard. And then it gets really confusing because the name of the village and the name of the vineyard is similar a lot of the time, and you never know which one they print first or if they even choose to print one or the other or both. Now, whenever it is like a Grand Cru vineyard, so in Burgundy, there's what we consider just the name of the village, which means it can be found anywhere in the village. It could be found a single vineyard in the village, but it doesn't have a ranking. So they can put their village name on there, but it's not a ranked vineyard. Sorry. Then you can have what we call the Premier Cru, which is the next step up. And then the most expensive, the Grand Cru vineyards in Burgundy are the most sought after. You can bet your bottom dollar that if it's a Grand Cru vineyard, they will almost always make that big front center, the biggest prints there, and that's usually what's the most expensive. And most of the time they will let you know it's Grand Cru. For example, here it will say Richburg Grand Cru, so it's almost counterintuitive. The biggest print is actually the name of the vineyard instead of the name of the producer or the name of the region that it's from. So it's very confusing because historically Burgundy are known for their Grand Cru vineyard, not as much known for their producer at the time. So you always put the Grand Cru vineyard first. So Richburg Grand Cru, and when you see the word Grand Cru, you know they're going to be expensive. And the name of the winery is very small right here, Domaine Gros Prairie Fille. So down there, very small. And then over here, a lot of the true wine collector probably recognize this bottle. It is the most highly sought after Burgundy out there. It's what's generally called the DRC, which stands for Domaine Romandie de Conti, and the producer's name is right here, Cuvée Domaine de la Romandie Conti. Look how small that is, and what they're really putting up front, they're promoting, is the name of the Grand Cru once again. And again, they're not making it easy because in this case, they just put the name Romandie Saint Vivant, and you as a consumer are supposed to know that's a Grand Cru. They didn't even type in the name Grand Cru underneath that. Again, that's what makes it so confusing. And then the other thing that's interesting is neither one of this, they did. So they put the name of the Grand Cru, the name of the producer, and then here's the name of the village that this Grand Cru came from, which is Vosne Romandie. But the Vosne Romandie is in such a small print, whereas in this bottle, the Loup du Monde is not coming from a Grand Cru vineyard so prestige like these two bottles. So the number one thing they want to promote, the cooler thing about this bottle, is that it is coming from the very well-known village of Vosne Romandie. So the biggest print here is Vosne Romandie, but Vosne Romandie is just a slightly bigger village that actually hosts both of this Grand Cru. So again, I totally understand why that's super confusing. And then how are you gonna know when you have something that says Rhone Romani, which you're like, okay, it could be a village, it could be a vineyard, I have no idea. And here you have Romani Saint Vivant, which is a vineyard, a Grand Cru, but it doesn't say Grand Cru. So if you're beginning, you're first just learning about it, it's really confusing to know, hey, is this just the name of a village, or is this the name of a Grand Cru, or what is it? And the price point, let's just say, for example, here is probably about $100, whereas when we're coming to here, the 2005 vintage, we're looking quite a few $1,000 difference. And it's really hard to tell just from the label. So with that being said, don't get discouraged. I think when it comes to Burgundy, there are so many variations, but it's really sexy, it's really fun to discover and starting to understand the different nuances. So find someone who knows what they're doing and learn from them and start trying, like forget about the Grand Cru stuff, start trying on the village level, on the entire bigger Burgundy level. Then as you understand more, you go finer and finer into the Premier Cru and the Grand Cru. So I know there's so much more to learn about Burgundy still, so please leave a comment with any questions or any other suggestion or anything you want to see in the future below. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.